streets were empty. The glow of streetlights barely reached the cracked pavement, leaving pockets of darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was just past 2 a.m., the time when the world felt eerily abandoned. The only sounds were the occasional hum of my car's engine and the faint rustling of leaves carried by the wind. I preferred the night shift. It was quieter, more peaceful. But that night, peace was the last thing I would find. A notification flashed on my phone. New ride request, pickup, convenience store, 2.4 miles away. Nothing unusual, but the moment I accepted, a strange unease settled in my chest. It wasn't logical. I had done hundreds of these rides before, but this one, something about it didn't feel right. As I pulled up to the location, the reason for my gut feeling became painfully clear. The convenience store was closed. Not just closed, but completely dark, the kind of shutdown that felt permanent. No employees, no other cars, nothing. Just an empty parking lot drenched in dim, flickering neon. Then I saw him. A man stood alone near the entrance, pacing in frantic, jerky movements. His hoodie was tattered, the sleeves frayed with gaping holes. Even from a distance, I could see his fingers twitching, his head snapping back and forth as if he was expecting something, or someone, to come after him. His face was hidden in shadow, but I could feel his eyes locked onto me. A wave of cold dread crawled up my spine. Every instinct screamed at me to cancel the ride, to drive away, but instead, I unlocked the doors. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. The door creaked open. He slid into the back seat without a word, moving with a stiff, almost unnatural jerk. The air inside the car instantly felt heavier, colder, like I had just let something in that didn't belong. The scent of sweat, damp fabric, and something faintly metallic filled my nostrils. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Most passengers either buried their faces in their phones or stared blankly out the window. Not him. He watched me. Through the rearview mirror, I caught his gaze hollow, unblinking, locked onto me like a predator sizing up prey. His hood still concealed most of his face, but what little I could see was enough to make my stomach twist. His lips were dry cracked, his skin pale, almost sickly. And his eyes, they had this wild glint, something between amusement and quiet rage. I forced myself to look away. Don't engage. Just drive. The silence in the car was suffocating, pressing in like an invisible weight. My fingers hovered over the radio dial. I needed to break this tension, fill the air with something, anything. As soon as I turned the knob, turn it off. His voice cut through the air like a knife, deep and raspy, like someone who had spent years inhaling smoke and regret. I tensed. The way he said it, it wasn't a request. It was a command. Keeping my face neutral, I clicked the radio off and stared straight ahead. My pulse thudded in my ears. He's just some strung-out guy. Just get him to his stop. We drove in silence. The city lights faded behind us, swallowed by the dark stretch of road ahead. The longer we drove, the worse the feeling in my gut got. Then, without warning, he spoke. You ever pick up someone you shouldn't have? His voice was slow, deliberate, like he already knew the answer. My breath caught in my throat. My hands felt slick on the wheel. What kind of question was that? I let out an awkward chuckle, trying to keep it light. I hope not. No reaction. No laugh. Just the sound of him shifting in his seat. Then, almost to himself, he muttered, "Yeah, neither did I." The way he said it, like he was reminiscing, like he was reliving something awful, sent a fresh wave of dread curling around my ribs. I glanced at the GPS. 10 minutes to his destination. Just 10 minutes. But suddenly, those 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. The road stretched ahead, empty and dark, swallowed by the void beyond my headlights. The streetlights had thinned out, leaving only patches of flickering yellow to guide me. The night felt heavier now, thick with something I couldn't name. 2 minutes left. The guy hadn't moved much, but I could feel him. His presence coiled behind me like a snake waiting to strike. Then he laughed. Not a full laugh, just a breathy chuckle, like he had just remembered an inside joke no one else was in on. I gripped the wheel tighter. My throat felt dry. I couldn't let him know he was getting to me. Then he said it. It's funny. You know how much trust you put in someone sitting right behind you? My stomach dropped. It wasn't just what he said. It was the way he said it. Like he had tested that trust before. Like he already knew how easily it could be broken. I forced a smile. keeping my eyes locked on the road. Yeah, I guess so. My voice didn't sound like mine. The seconds ticked by, slow and agonizing. The GPS showed 1 minute left. Just 60 more seconds. I could do this. But then he started talking again. Not to me, to himself. At first, I couldn't make out the words. Just low, muttered phrases, like a man confessing in a church with no priest to listen. Then, 2 words sent a shiver through my spine. I'm sorry. He said it over and over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I stopped breathing. I forced my eyes up to the mirror. He was rocking slightly, his hands gripping his knees, his lips moving fast, like he was unraveling right there in my back seat. Then he looked up. His eyes found mine. And for the first time that night, I saw everything. The mania, the regret, the hunger. I should have said something. I should have done something. But all I could do was watch as he whispered. I didn't mean to do it. A cold weight settled in my gut. Do what? I swallowed hard. The turn for his stop was coming up fast. My pulse pounded against my skull. 30 seconds. The road ahead was pitch black. No houses. No streetlights. Just endless asphalt leading nowhere. 20 seconds. He stopped rocking. His hands relaxed. The tension drained from his shoulders. Then, so softly I almost didn't hear it, he said, I think you should pull over. Every hair on my body stood on end. The GPS still showed 0.2 miles to go. This wasn't his stop. This wasn't anyone's stop. The road was nothing but empty fields. No buildings. No signs. Just us. I kept driving. I didn't care what the app said. I didn't care if I had to speed. Because if I stopped now, I knew I wouldn't leave that car alive. The road kept stretching forward, endless and suffocating. My headlights barely cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but barren fields and the occasional dead tree swaying in the wind. No houses, no signs, just an abyss of asphalt leading nowhere. 10 seconds. The GPS insisted a turn was coming up, but there was no turn, just more road, fading into black. And then his voice, soft, almost playful. You missed it. A cold chill ripped through my spine. I didn't miss anything. I knew that for a fact. The screen still showed 0.1 miles to the destination. But when I glanced at the mirror, he was already staring at me. Grinning. Not wide, not exaggerated. Just a sliver of a smile, enough to make my stomach twist. Pull over. His voice had changed. It was firmer now. He wasn't asking anymore. I swallowed hard, keeping my grip steady on the wheel. We're almost there, I muttered, trying to sound casual. His grin widened. No, we're here. My heart slammed against my ribs. The GPS recalculated, rerouting. No. There was no destination. I had been driving to nowhere. I felt him shift in the back seat. A faint rustling of fabric. The creak of leather as he adjusted his posture. Like he was preparing for something. My mind raced. I had 2 choices. Pull over. Step out of the car. Let him take control of the situation, which I would not survive. Floor it. I made my choice. I clenched the wheel, tightened my jaw. Then, I slammed my foot on the gas. The car lurched forward, the engine roaring as the speedometer climbed. The force threw him back into his seat, and for the first time that night, I heard a sharp, startled breath. Then he laughed, low, amused, excited. I didn't look back. I didn't speak. I just drove into the dark. The engine roared as I sped down the empty highway, my hands locked in a death grip around the wheel. The road ahead blurred, but I didn't dare look away. Not at the GPS, not at him, but I could feel him shifting in the back seat. His breathing slow and steady, unbothered. Then he spoke again. You think you're getting away? The words slithered through the air, calm and amused, like he had seen this all before. I didn't answer, didn't acknowledge him. I just kept driving. Then he moved. I heard the soft creak of leather as he leaned forward, closer than before. His breath hit the back of my neck. I told you. We were already here. A scream caught in my throat. Suddenly, the back door swung open. Wind slammed into the car, howling through the cabin. The seat behind me was empty. He was gone. I jerked the wheel, my car swerving violently as I struggled to regain control. The tires shrieked, the world spinning in chaos. Then silence. I didn't crash. I didn't hit anything. The road stretched on, endless and untouched, as if nothing had ever happened. I yanked the car to the side, chest heaving, fingers trembling. My body screamed at me to get out, to run, to do anything except sit there. But my eyes, they drifted to the back seat. Empty. The door was closed, like no one had ever been there. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, ready to check the ride history, proof that this happened. But the app was already open. The ride was still active. Drop off, 0 miles away. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. The GPS wasn't rerouting anymore. The little blue pin wasn't moving, because it was already here. I slammed the phone down and sped off into the night, refusing to look at the mirror, refusing to acknowledge what I already knew. He never needed a ride. He was already where he wanted to be. To this day, I don't know if that man was real, if he was just another lunatic, a ghost, or something worse. All I know is that I never should have let him into my car. So if you drive late at night, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it is. And whatever you do, never pick up a passenger who doesn't have a destination.